Okay, so
Hello,
essentially what I'm
for
doing
those
right
of
now.
you who are here. So I just laid down some tarp on the ground. Actually, not on the ground, but on this like deck board thing that I have that I'm gonna be using to walk on. I just put some tarp down on that, and I'm gonna use some paint to show you how to draw a different kind of labyrinth. And we'll go over the different types of labyrinths that you can use because I know a lot of people don't have the capacity to go outside right now. And so there's a lot of different ways you could do this, but I thank you guys for being here and hope that we had fun with this. I'm going to have fun with this. Um, so there are a lot of different things I guess you can kind of figure out about labyrinths. There, well, for one, I'll start with what a labyrinth is, and I guess I can add comments for people to also have. But a labyrinth is essentially like a walking path. It is used for many different reasons. You can use labyrinths to um, use as like a meditation. You know, they were created based off of like celestial dances that followed the sun, followed patterns of the stars and the moon. Um, they were used to, like for a number of different reasons, but um, I'll kind of essentially go through some basic things with them. So, um, labyrinths, they have um, an entrance, they have a center, and they have lines which are used to make the path. There's the actual path itself, which is the middle part, and there's the symbol that it makes, and then there's the entry that you lead out to. So not all labyrinths have ones where you will go in the same path and come out the same path. Some have one where you enter one side and come out the other side. But essentially, you should know that like the difference between a labyrinth and a maze. Uh, a maze is supposed to be challenging. Labyrinths are supposed to be relaxing. You shouldn't be stressed out when doing a labyrinth. It's something that you can clearly see. Um, Something you can clearly see on the ground. Something that you should be able to find relaxing and peaceful. They're completely different from mazes. Labyrinths are used, you know, for different reasons. People use them to exercise. People use them to, like find healing, deeper knowledge within themselves. Find creativity. I think they can be um, very useful in the process of healing, which is a lot of which I've been doing my div on and talking about, um, and just like the process of making my own work with labyrinths. I have created a combination of labyrinths and mazes from my own living walking experience. And today I won't be using my own labyrinth. I will be using one that is a classical one that's easy for people to draw and use. Um, and I've put that also in the Facebook event that people can access to. And so the one that just a little bit more information I'm gonna go over for labyrinth stuff. So so there's a woman who named Laura, actress, who founded this organization that does a lot of labyrinth work. And then I also have been getting a lot of information from the Labyrinth Society, who's also hosting their own Facebook Live. You guys should check that out too. I'll post it in the event, but they've been hosting their own 24-hour, just like walking labyrinth dialogue. They have different speakers, and they've basically just been giving me different knowledge and giving other people different knowledge about the impact that labyrinths had. Essentially, there's like not one right way to do a labyrinth. You just simply let the experience be your own. It does consist of having twists and turns. Some are very simple, some can be more in depth and have more layers to it. But again, they are extremely different from mazes, which are, puzzles and simply like supposed to be and like challenging, but there aren't any blind alleys, or there aren't any, like challenges for your like mental capacity. People used um, labyrinths in ancient days, I guess you would say. People, there's like mythology stories about the Minotaur, roaming the labyrinth while people were sent to solve it, things like that. This won't be like that. This labyrinth will be pretty simple. Um, More things to note on labyrinth. Yeah, there's no right way to do a labyrinth. You simply are using it to reflect. You're using it to, you can go into starting a labyrinth with an intention, um, which can be pretty much whatever, like you could start with a question you may have. I think this process is similar to how people do tarot card readings. You have a specific question, you have a specific thing that you want to know about, even if it's general. And you start with that. You start with some breathing, you start with just a few deep breaths, and we'll do that. We'll officially start everything with the walking at one. Right now, we're just going over labyrinth stuff. Um, yeah, and you start with breathing, and then as you walk into the labyrinth, you think about all of this, uh, all of the things that you carry into the labyrinth. Like, and you recite that to yourself. I carry myself, I carry my identities, I carry my experiences, I carry the knowledge that I have encompassed and gathered throughout my 21 years. I'm only 21. Throughout life on Earth, I carry with me my creativity. I carry with me um, my I guess inner wisdom. I carry with me my care and respect for the world. Like, you like reflect on those things as you're walking into the labyrinth, and you remember to keep breathing, and remember to be observant of your path. As you come upon a turn, take that time to reflect on something else. And simply like what it feels like to walk this path, and what it feels like to, as you get closer and closer to your goal, what it feels like in your mind to actually reach that. It's supposed to be very reflective, um, and there you shouldn't have any like disappointments with the process. You can do a labyrinth as many times as you may need to do a labyrinth. I like to do labyrinths a number of 3 times. I just find the number 3 to be appealing because it's nice to cycle things, and it's something that we do often with our minds anyway. We cycle in our thoughts, and so why not do that with something that's supposed to be promoting my well-being? um, so I continue to use labyrinths to help me find peace of mind, to help me find um, yeah, I want to encourage other people to use labyrinths to find healing, to find calm. It's very difficult for there to be calm in our everyday lives. And, we've been dealing with the daily stress of, coronavirus, and worrying about our families, and, just taking on more stress with having to navigate things not how we normally do that, especially with people not being able to use the resources in schools, people not being able to like go out and be with people. That's really affecting how people gather. So I'm excited to have this event and gather people, and really come together and do something that's fun, and do something that you can use in your everyday life. um, I don't use labyrinths every day, but I hope for it to be a practice that I can help create in communities like in nature, you know, I really want there to be more labyrinths in public spaces so that people can go to these spaces when they are having difficult times. You know, it's really great for problem solving. You know, if you're stuck with something and need to find some resolution through that. Um, so yeah, so that is basically kind of an overview of labyrinths, and the labyrinth that I want to take this time to kind of talk about and create with you guys. It's just like a classic old labyrinth design. You know, people. It's easily made too. There are a lot of different types of ones that I could go over. So there's just a classic circuit one which we're going to use today, which has it's easily made. You just make it with um, making a cross, a T cross, and 4 dots, and um, and I can also go. I also share my screen. Uh, so I'm just going to use this notepad to essentially show you guys how to make one. So on your page, and this is the great thing about labyrinths. You know, there are many different types. You know, people walk labyrinths. Some people like don't walk labyrinths. They use finger labyrinths, which are essentially using your finger to trace the labyrinth path and doing that as many times as you need to. Some people journal in between. Some people write in between. You know, you don't have to specifically do that. The purpose of doing some form of journaling or writing in between it is to like get out of your mind whatever chaos may be in it. You know, it's helpful to get that out as you're going through the labyrinth multiple times. No, the one we'll be using today is simple. Across and then 4 dots. So no corners, no corners, just across and 4 dots. Um, and then with these dots, what you have here, you start with this top one. You're going to take the top of this cross, connect it to your first point here. And some people, you know, like to do, you could do box. If you're not into the curve of it, you can do like, you know, just a rectangular ending. For this, I'm just going to do a circular one because it's easier for me to navigate through. But you take the top of your point and you connect it there to that first point, and you're just going to continue to do that with the next one. You're going to take this dot and connect it to the next line in your cross, and you're going to do that with the next line in your cross, and then the next dot on your cross. So you should have a labyrinth that has a path going in and a path meeting the center. Yeah, you go in through here, and then it goes around, and then around, and then around, and you get the center. So yeah, with these, this is just a classic circuit. Again, it's made with a cross and 4 dots, and it's in the structures in the events for you to replicate. I'm going to be using this one and replicating it to put on this clear tarp thing here, which I'm excited for because I've had this all semester and I've really just wanted to use it. So now I get to use it. And you know, I have these bright colored markers that I'm going to be using and making it with. And I'm trying to figure out what color I should start with. I think I'm gonna start with I want to see how these colors. I'm gonna test these markers. I like pink. I want to thank Beth for telling me about these markers. I hosted a workshop with Beth from um, the CYL. And, you know, I learned about these paint markers, which I'm going to be using here to draw with. And so I'm excited for those. I have those. And I want to make these points as colorful as possible, you know, for people to enjoy and watch. So, yeah, I wish I had like a GoPro, which would be better for people to see, but it's okay. So I'm just gonna start with my cross, and I think I'll do a green. I like this green. So I like to have some form of measurement. So this is a 8x11 size paper, which I'm just doing for measurement. So we have almost 4 pages. So I need to measure. So since the circuit I'm using it as a 3-circuit, circuits basically are just determined by the number of paths you have. So in this path we have 3. So this is a 3 this circuit. That's what makes it 3. So we have 3 paths that we have to go through in order to get to our center. So I have to make sure that my feet fits into each of those paths. And just gonna step on it to make sure that I have really enough leeway space for my foot to be in each of them. Right. So I've got my cross. I hope you guys can see that cross. So we have that cross, but taking another marker, and I'm gonna start connecting my path. And I think at this point it's just okay to get the basic path down. You don't have to worry about making it as decorative and stuff. Just making sure you get that pathway down. And again, remembering you need that path to be wide enough for you to put your foot in too. So as I'm doing these measurements, I want to make sure I'm putting my foot in between to give me that path I need. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it is coming along. So I have one. So now I'm gonna do the same thing that I did. Put my foot here so that I have enough space to walk my labyrinth, and And once you measured your foot, just keep doing that, you know? So this tarp is pretty big for me so that I can adjust it as I need to for making sure I make a great one. So we got another one coming. So and I think this one, the 3-circuit one, is good because it's small, simple to make, kind of looks like a brain, which I think is fun. Because, like, you know, it's helping you to reach that inner knowledge that you want, you know, grasp it and try and connect with that part of you. So for you, those of you at home right now, the easiest way for you to make this, I guess, would be, you know, you can use, if you can, like, find some rocks, you can make this with uh, toothpicks. You can make this with matches. You can make this with pencils, pens. If you have like a lot of pencils and pens, you can get those and start making. You can make like a rectangular one of these, or you could use like one of the rectangular labyrinths that I put up in the page, uh, and you know, like, yeah, like, and make it how however big you want it to be. But remember, you need it to be big enough to step into. So I'm about to be on my last line, and then once I'm done, I'm gonna cut it out, and then start the process of talking about how to walk together. Okay, so now I'm gonna cut this out, and so I can have it lying. So those of you who are just joined, I'm cutting out the labyrinth that I just drew. For the event. And, you know, this is my first time hosting an event surrounding labyrinth. It's also my first time making one on, like, this type of ground. I've made one with wood, which I'm actually going to make one to leave at Hampshire and just, like, you know, have a space that people can chill and relax to next to a tree and do one. You know, I really want to increase the amount of labyrinths that we have in the world because I think they're important to our mental health. And not enough people know about them or have spaces to utilize them. So, be the change you want to see. As corny as it would sound, it is very true. This I'm trying to keep track of time. Okay, 30 minutes. So in this event, we're going to be walking at one together. And that's just simply what it means. Walking, um, you know, keeping in mind that, you know, this experience is to create harmony and peace around the world, and that many people are doing this around the world. Um, but, you know, it is in honor of the creation of labyrinths and what they do for us spiritually, mentally, and physically. And yeah, so I have more labyrinth, which I'm also going to take down. Check that out. Mine is going to be a little bit crooked. That's all right. So I'm using, this is like mounting tape, but anything floats. I'm just going to be using it different points around the labyrinth. Just stick it down and make sure it doesn't move. It is 1 o'clock. So I like to begin, well, technically I'm doing this kind of right now, but, you know, I like to begin my process of walking through the labyrinth around it first, you know, to like ground myself around the space that I'm about to rotate around and walk, you know. My favorite type of labyrinth, I mean, there are a lot, but my favorite one, the one that I've made one for my div, is it's called a Greek key, but there's also different forms of it, but it's called the meander labyrinth, and it essentially just, meander means to wander aimlessly, and I thought that is a great way to describe what labyrinths are. They are used to wander, and I was like, why not? Why not use that when your mind is going places? So, yeah, I'll move my markers and begin walking. And as I'm walking around it, I take a few deep breaths and just breathe in and out. It was so cool to do this outside. Honestly, I probably could do this outside. Let me see. It's very sunny out here, y'all. So I'm walking around, deep breath in and out. everything that weighs me down. When I walk into this labyrinth, I just want to focus on my breathing. And you walk, you just focusing on my breathing. And then we get closer to the center, and just relaxing and focusing on my breathing. And I'm thinking about the harmony that is happening around the world as I reach my center. And I take a moment and I breathe in deeply. And I follow my path out. And as I'm walking out, I am thinking about all the good things that are happening with the earth and how much the earth needs our isolation and how much the earth needs the rain, even though it's been raining very tired and sleepy these last few days. And I'm just releasing it and bringing it in. As I reach the exit point of my path, I give gratitude to this labyrinth for letting me use it. And I walk around my path again, and I breathe in out, and out. I think about harmony within. And I walk it again. And as I walk in, thinking about my breathing, thinking about the harmony and peace that is being made around the world. And thinking how wonderful it is to be in this space and be outside, and thinking about how good and grateful I am to have this time in isolation to take care of myself and better myself and enhance my practices, which will help other people. And as I reach my center, I take a deep breath and exhale. And as I'm thinking about that, how much peace and harmony, I take my path and I'm walking it back. And as I walk back, I think about the need for this isolation. I think about all the things that I've accomplished that have gotten me to this point. I think about all the things that I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for faith, grateful for my family, my friends, the knowledge that I have, the experiences that have led me here. I think about all the things that are to come, even though it might seem an unknown, that is within life, and that every way in which that encompasses me to be sad. I am in the labyrinth. Do you want to do it with me? I am thinking about all the ways in which life is in now and how that brings positivity to our life. I'm going to reach my exit or take a deep breath. Breathe and exhale. I walk around my labyrinth one more time. Breathing in and out and out. And you, I just walk the labyrinth. I don't know what she said. So as I walk around here, walk around in a circle, breathe, and think about all the things you've been able to accomplish while in isolation. Think about the ways that it's been. Think about people that it's gathering, everybody at this moment at 1 p.m. around the world is walking for peace and harmony for the earth. People are doing this at different times, it's just 1 p.m. in the United States. People are probably experiencing 1 p.m. As you get to your center, breathe in, breathe out, in and out, and think about how you made it, and think about how you're here, and all that you carry with you, and all that weight you release. And as you think, walk out, release all of that anxiety, release all that worry, release all that negativity that holds you down, keeps you from your inner wisdom and your inner self, and will make you cry. Once you're at that exit point, give gratitude for this path, allowing you to wander endlessly and needlessly, because that is the way of life. I guess I'm telling you that. No, but you can collaborate. And I hope you guys are walking at home. This is the basic of it. And yeah. Thank you, baby. You're awesome. And yeah, I'm gonna continue walking for some more time, and sit here and talk with you guys. I have basically, been working on labyrinths and what they do for your mental health and the importance of them and centering you, because I think a lot of us need to be centered, especially during this difficult time. And I really appreciate all that I've learned so far in my journey with Labyrinth. Um, I've been definitely developing and challenging myself to learn all that I can about them. And, we all have a labyrinth in us. There's a lot of wisdom surrounding labyrinths and what they encompass, and I'm gonna read some more stuff to you about it. So labyrinths go back as far as 4,000 years. They've found labyrinths in tombs. They've found them in mosaics, churches. They're cut into turf. And yeah, so the oldest one is the Seventh Circuit Classic Labyrinth. I don't think the Three Circuit one was developed until like a few decades later. But essentially, it's similar to the Three Circuit one. It just has seven paths instead of um, three. And in Greece, in ancient Greece, there were a lot found in tombs and a lot found in clay. And they could be very diverse and very, very expansive. And they definitely they heavily differ from mazes. Mazes are puzzles. In essence, they are supposed to enhance your anxiety and make you focus better. So my computer died in the middle of me talking about labyrinths. I'm sad. It's okay. I'm back. I wanted to talk to you guys, I guess, more about labyrinths, but these are mandalas, which are kind of like similar to labyrinths, but not labyrinths. A lot of them have the chaotic. They have like a more chaotic nature than a labyrinth would. But I think there are parts of it, that have, you can see, there's a center. Oh, sorry, I'm pointing wrong thing. There's a center. This one too. There's a there's a center. There's paths. That has lines, and each has different pathways you can go through. But I really I really love learning about labyrinths and the different kinds there are, because they're just so therapeutic to even just like trace with your fingers. They're therapeutic to walk. They're therapeutic to read about. There are different ways that you can do it. Like there's not a right way to walk or do a labyrinth. There are finger labyrinths. There are even like coloring pages of labyrinths, and I think that's like wonderful. I think these these the things that labyrinths represent for us, like we are all searching for some form of divine within ourselves, within the world, and I was really attracted to labyrinths just because of the process of walking. In the fall of 2018, I did a basically essentially an ethnography walking diary of my own life where I've retraced every place I ever lived in my life. And I went to these places and I did some journaling and I did photography. And then I took I looked at all of these places and I put them in maps on a map. I put all them all the locations just to see what kind of pattern they would make. And they made a lot of different chaotic patterns, and so like I have my own form of a labyrinth, which is just like my path that I've lived in and gone through my entire life, and I feel like I want to teach other people how to do that for themselves. The process of my div is doing that as a form of memory work, as a form of healing, as a form of documenting your own history. Um, Labyrinths have been very beneficial in the ways that they are able to create peace of mind for people. Um, they can be used as a learning tool. They can be used as an exercise tool. Like there are endless ways that you can use a labyrinth. Honestly, um, I think yeah, putting them in workplaces, putting them in schools, putting them in public parks is something that I want to continue to do in my work as an artist and as uh, I guess a tracer. I'm just finding out that that's a term that people use. But um, so yeah, I have this book mandalas. I actually bought this at a store in Northampton. It's by Jose and Miriam Arguelles, and yeah, it has a lot of cool shapes in it. Um, it starts off with talking about how we are the universe, which is cool. Um, and it talks about how, we consist of all of these structural processes, and we grow and transform with these processes, with a structure, and the wisdom that we can encompass is limitless, and I think that's a beautiful thing. We all have a center of us that could be, for some people, the heart. That could be, some people, chakras. That could be, that could be many things for you. We all have a type of symmetry to us. How our body is made up. There's no right way to have a body. There's something else that I've come to um, learn about this entire process of doing div. And before doing div, I went to an event this semester where there was a woman who hosted an event on there not being a right way to have a body, and I thought that was very powerful because she used puppetry to tell her story. And we all have different points in our bodies that affect us. There's some people do, I forget what it's called, where like they put like needle points and do the whole needle acupuncture. I think that's what it's called. But essentially, like thinking about a labyrinth as sort of like this, where we all have points in our bodies. We all have a center. We all have a symmetry to us, and I think having that and being able to walk that is very centering when you feel like you are in a state where you don't get to feel peace of mind, where you don't get to feel centered, where you don't get to feel safe. And I think those are able to help you with that. It's able to help you problem solve and come to take in all the things that you've been dealing with and release them. We don't practice deep breathing as often as we should. We don't practice, you know, centering ourselves as often as we should. We're so consumed with the anxieties of the world and consumed with all of the problems and all of the troubles and all the worries that we forget to take a deep breath. And I think labyrinths help us to do that. And so that's why I'm really excited to have and celebrate World Labyrinth Day with people in the world, because it's my first celebration of World Labyrinth Day. And I'm glad that I can have this be a part of my div and share this with other people. Um, just going through this book. And, I hope to share with you guys my own form of labyrinths and the ones that I have created. I started making my own types of labyrinths not too long ago. Like I tried making some recently where essentially I just was experimenting with what I could come up with. And I came up with these creatures. I don't know what I kind of really like them, like especially this one. This one kind of, I don't even know what it looks like, but it looks like kind of like someone holding their fist up, And like you can start anywhere. You can start here, you can start here, you can start in the center, like wherever you wanted to. Like I just made that just by experimenting with the whole structure of like the dots and stuff. Like these two are actual labyrinths that have already existed, but these ones below it and stuff are ones that I've experimented with making. I really like this one, and I was trying to figure out a way to actually bring this one into this, but I couldn't figure out a way to make that relevant. But I think I could still do that if I wanted to. But essentially, yeah, with this one, you would start here. You see what it says? Enter here. I drew these. These are the labyrinths that I've made. You enter here, you walk in, you start here, you take a deep breath, you keep walking in, you come around that first turn, you do some more breathing, and you think to yourself, what do I have in this moment? What do I carry with me in this moment? And as you go in, and as you get to that center point, you stop and you think, you take a deep breath, and you just center yourself and you breathe. And you think about all the things that you have in your life, because we don't practice gratitude enough. And you think about the state that your body is in right now and what your body is feeling. If there's any tension in your body, pay attention to it. Think, start from your head. If there's any pain in your head, you know, be with it, address it, acknowledge it. Continue down to your neck, continue down to your shoulders, roll them. Release that tension. Keep going down to your stomach and your chest. Take a deep breath and watch it rise and fall and feel it, and don't be afraid to exhale. Like, don't be afraid to be with your body. It is your body. You need to be in your body. And I know that's very difficult for some people because we some people don't have the the time nor capacity to be in their body. Some people are not even capable of being in spaces that are able to heal them because they're just dealing with too much and it's not constant. But you have to know that healing is an everyday process. It's not linear. It's not going to be straightforward. You have to follow it like a labyrinth. You have to take it with its twists and turns. Yeah, and then like continue down your body to your hips. Feel your hips. Be with your hips. Like sway a little bit. Like be with your legs. Feel if there's any pain in your legs. Be with your legs and your feet. Feel them. Feel them grounded. Feel them on the ground. Breathe into your soles. Breathe into the sole of your feet. Take a nice reach up to the sky and stretch your hands and stretch your arms as far as you can, and then lift off the tip of your toes and stretch as far to the sky as if you're trying to touch the sky and fly. Honestly, if people tried to fly more, I think we could get a lot of places. That's just a funny thing. Um, but like, yeah, labyrinths really help to make me feel more at peace with my body. I feel more like the path that I am on. It may not be one that I understand, but I must continue to go along with the flow of it and wander aimlessly. I don't know what I'm going to encounter in my next day. I don't know what I'm going to encounter in my next hour. I have to trust that the process that I will follow is going to lead me to the places and the people and the things that I need to be around and be with. Um, and so practicing labyrinth walking at least once a week, at least once a week, can be beneficial to your mental health, because not only is it helping you to bring yourself down to yourself, and focusing on yourself. It brings you down to that, and it just helps you. It builds your focus. It helps you problem solve. Like if you have a question that you've been trying to figure out the answer to, or if you want to know something about yourself that you feel like is repressed, take some time to do some deep breaths, and before going into that labyrinth, hold that question with you. Hold it with you as you're going through the labyrinth, and cycle as many times as you need. We cycle through thoughts so often and we get stuck in these negative patterns, but we have to resist the getting stuck and just follow the path, and know that the path will lead you to where you need to go. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know what else more to talk about. I could go on forever about how much I love labyrinths. I posted. I guess I can talk about the kinds that I posted today. So I posted a four directions labyrinth, which is the square one, and you can walk that as many times as you like. There's one of those based in California, in Albany. Most people make those with rocks. Um, I also posted the pinwheel one, which is like the one that has like a bunch of different. It has like a bunch of different entrances to them. There's four different entrances. There's also one in California. I think there's also one in Nevada. Hopefully one day that I can actually go. I tried to find one while I was in Amherst, but I think one of them got closed down because it wasn't being upkept as much, and I think the other one was too far away. So I can only do. I don't have a car here. It's okay. So I posted those two. I also posted a couple links for you to follow to go and just be with this. There's also the Vesica Triangle, which if you watched Charm before, you could recognize that one. It's like overlapping triangles. It's also a form of math, uh, math labyrinth stuff, which is encompassed under like sacred geometry. I've recently been learning about sacred geometry, which I think is actually pretty wild because it's based off of like the planet symmetry, and it's based off of the like it's based off of the wisdom of planets, and each planet has a specific point that allows them to cross and make different patterns. But I learned about it a little bit today, when I was talking. I was a part of the Labyrinth Society's 24-hour walking labyrinth event. I've just been staying on that because I was up at night watching it. And it's still happening. So you guys can go to the Labyrinth Society's page and you can actually join their labyrinth event. And you can actually rewind all the way back to when it first started and see all the presenters that have been happening so far. But there was a few points from that presentation that I'd actually like to share with you because I thought they were pretty helpful in helping me to like learn more about labyrinths. So we all know that they start from a cross and four dots, or at least from the one that we've done, which is the three circuit one. And on the numerology from sacred geometry, there are these things called magic squares, where each corner has even numbers, and then the center cross are odd numbers, and they all sum up to 15. And it's wild. I'll also post these on the page, the event page, but people are attracted to them because of their charm and their mystery. And they have a lot, yeah, and most of them follow planets, which all range, like they get bigger depending on the planet. Like Neptune's is like this, Pluto's is like huge. Like so the it makes me think about the capacity to have how big labyrinths get. They can be very huge. Um, and, I think some people might find labyrinths to be intimidating. And I feel like I would rather walk a labyrinth than try and figure out a maze, because a maze is, I think a maze is much better to do on paper than it is to try and walk. Um, and you don't People confuse labyrinths and mazes. Again, they're not the same. Labyrinths have an easy target. You know where you're going. You know where your center is. You can come out at any time. Mazes, on the other hand, can have a whole bunch of complicated twists and turns and challenges in between. Whereas like labyrinths don't have all that. You're walking right in and you're walking right out. Um, so I'll share those points with you. Just gonna go to them on my computer and find them. Uh, so yeah, as I was watching the Labyrinth event on the screen, because I joined it, there was a talk about the symbolism and form of labyrinths. So it said this, and this is from A Beginner Guide to Constructing a Universe, the Mathematical Archetypes of Nature and Science, and it's by Michael Schneider. Came out in 1951. It talks about the magic squares and the numerology of that. But there's a quote in it on page like what is it 14 no 56, and it says the labyrinth has a double function in the sense that it permits or forbids, as the case may be, access to a certain place which into not everyone must be allowed to penetrate indiscriminately. Only those who are qualified will be able to pass through it to the end, while others will be prevented from entering or go astray along the path. It is immediately obvious that a selection is involved here, which is closely related to initiation. The course of a labyrinth is therefore, in this respect, a representation of initiatic trials, and it is easy to conceive that when the labyrinth actually served as a means of access to certain sanctuaries, it could be planned so as to enable the corresponding rites to be accomplished in the very course of the passage. Also involved is the idea of travel in the sense in which it is comparable to the trials of themselves, as still is masonry, for example, where each of the symbolic trials is designated as a journey. Another equivalent symbolism is that the pilgrimage, which brings to mind the labyrinths marked out in the past on the pavement of certain churches to go along, one of those was considered a substitute for pilgrimage of the Holy Land. Moreover, if that point at which the path ends represents a place reserved for the elect, that place is indeed Holy Land and is initiatic sense of expression. In other words, it is nothing other than an image of a spiritual center, as in every place of initiation. Um, and I think that just goes back to talking about how labyrinths, yeah, kind of are seeking to connect you to a divine part of yourself. You know, they're helping you to reach an inner wisdom in yourself that you can't get when you're just living life consciously. Like you have to take a second to be aware of your body and be aware of the state of your mind. And I think, you know, we don't do that enough because we're constantly in the midst of so many stressors and triggers of our stressors that we can't really be with our bodies. We're like on autopilot. Um, I also wanted to read another thing, and then yeah, and then we have 10 minutes left, which is going to be the end. But you guys can keep walking. Don't let me stop you. I want to find it. So I had put on the event website a bunch of tips for walking while you're doing that. There are a bunch of different things you can consider while walking. So, as I've said before, there's no right way to walk a labyrinth. These are just considerations. So, as you're preparing for your walk, you know, do whatever is helpful to help you quiet your mind. If that is taking all the things that you are thinking of at that time and actually saying them out loud, definitely do that. If saying a prayer before you go into the labyrinth is helpful, do that. Reciting a quote to yourself, you know, reciting things you know about yourself or affirmed. And I did that at the beginning of my process of making the labyrinth. I think all of those things are helpful. I like to do my labyrinths with just socks on. I don't like to have shoes on, so that's also something that you can think about because, like, whatever helps you to connect better with the labyrinth, I think will help you process it more efficiently. I think finding your own pace is also something that people worry about doing. You know, you can walk a labyrinth very slow, you can walk a labyrinth very fast. It's up to you. It's up to your own rhythm and your own pace. And I don't think you should expect there to be a certain way to do that. You really are just trying to find your own rhythm, and that's hard to do. But you know, the slowness of it is very helpful for helping you to calm your mind and quiet your mind. The fast pace of it can do many things too if you're cycling it multiple times as well. You know, just walking in a circle aimlessly can be very evocative of movement and rhythm, and I think that's always good. Um, Thinking about reflecting on your labyrinth walking, you know, right after labyrinth walking, you can journal, you can just doodle, you can do whatever you think is best for you. Some people say another prayer, some people write a list of things they're grateful for. I I like to do any of those options, whatever feels better to me at the time. At this particular time, I didn't write down any reflections, but I'm kind of reflecting with you guys. Um, I think being comfortable in the space that you walk your labyrinth in is very um, important. You need to feel some sense of safety, which is also difficult in a time if you don't have places of safety. But I I think again, labyrinths are best in public spaces. You can make them with chalk, you can make them with toothpicks, you can make them with, pretty much anything. Um, I have a level of creativity that allows me to just make them out of anything. Um, I think also taking into consideration uh, distractions, for like the placement of your labyrinth is another important thing to think about. There's not too many people outside right now because of COVID, so having labyrinths outside on your front porch could be pretty simple, or in your backyard, or in your driveway, or just having one that's like, a finger labyrinth, which is something you just trace with your fingers. That's can be really helpful. You can just pull that out right at work, and just like create a dialogue, creative conversation around what a labyrinth is and why it's important to you. Um, Again, yeah, these are just considerations, not something to take too wholeheartedly. Um, yeah, and then taking into consideration if you make a labyrinth, like the perimeter, like you have to know what your perimeters for that is, but also like let that guide you. Sometimes if you're not ready, like, and I think this goes back to the pace, but like if you're not ready to enter a labyrinth and you don't feel like you are in the headspace, you feel enough to like walk a labyrinth or focus on walking the labyrinth, walk outside of it, walk around it, walk around the perimeter of it. You don't have to necessarily rush into going into it. Get to know this labyrinth, get to know the space that you will be walking and traveling through, and letting guide you through all of your fixations and assumptions. Like, I think it's very helpful to release all of these things as you're walking through the labyrinth and get to your center. Like, that's very, very helpful. uh, i I appreciate how much I've been able to use the labyrinths in my own spiritual practice, and I hope that this has inspired y'all to use that in your daily life. And yeah, I think on that note, I will depart. But thank you again for joining me for World Labyrinth Day. And I hope that you take this with you and at least think about it, incorporating it into your daily life. So, bye. Putting on socks because I am cold. And since we're going to be doing walking, you gotta have proper foot equipment. um, I hope the bee just did not go into my house. Okay, should probably close my door. And where each corner has, sorry, bugs. Where each corner